Hello everyone, this is Karthik from iTeLearn. Thank you and welcome back. I have with me Prema. She and I have been interacting, I believe, for the last 2 years, a lot of talk on data sciences. So both of us each carry individually over 20 years industry experience. And our relationship with data goes way back to some of the most early databases and programming languages. And our exposure today and how we want to realistically look at it is something different. But she's someone who's an expert in this field. She's also conducted many training programs. She's an active uh, online trainer in the data sciences area. And I'm glad that we have her here with iTeLearn for this session. So, Prema, it's all yours. I just want to hear a lot on this.
Sure. Thank you, Karthik. The basic idea of the orientation program today will be just 2 or 3-fold. The one being the shift from Excel into specific analytical tools like R, which is what I will be using, but the market has many. And the kind of challenges with data today, wherein programming tools like R can actually help with it, and the market as of today for any analytical package. So these are the 3 things that I'm going to cover today, and I will first start off with explaining how previously we used Excel to do the same things that we do in R, and how the shift has actually happened. Now, if you can see the data that I've got on screen, it just shows you that I've got some names out here, which is what I call in Excel as cells, and what I call in today's programming language as rows and columns. Now, when I always talk in Excel, I always talk in a cell language. It is cell for me. This is a cell for me. So if I see the names that I've got here and the marks that each of the students have carried, and I've used these functions that you can see here. Now, when you see sum, that is your grand total. Okay, if I click on that cell, it will give me the formula that I have actually used to calculate this using my sum function. Okay, sum of, and I've referenced all my C columns, which I've done for each of the different other columns. So when I talk the language of Excel, I'm talking the cell language. I'm not talking rows and columns, which is what I will do when I move into R programming. If also I go into my average, if I see here, if I click on the cell, it gives me the cell average that I've taken for the whole of the cell, what Tom's marks are, what is the average of his marks from each of the different subjects that he's actually. So in Excel, what we do the same kind of functions in R. We call it as an average, and the way the terminology changes, I call it sum here, I call it grand total there, I call it average here, I call my central tendency value there. So the kind of language that we use is actually differing, and the language from cell to rows and columns is also actually shifting. Now, if you see count A, right? This is the total of my number of students, which is the total number of observed values, or the total number of what's the strength of my number of students that I have, okay, which I call observations in our language, or in any statistical terminology, I would call that as observations. If I see the maximum range marks, I will call that in our programming as range. The highest range, the lowest range, maximum, minimum, okay? The max function, the min function, okay? So on and so forth, we kind of actually use these terminology, and we relate these to the minimum. What is it that we're trying to do here from the different functions that are carried. What are we trying to find out? So this is where we were using Excel and referencing everything to the cell. Now, if I go into checking, those were few commands that we've checked. Now let's look at the graphical presentation of data. Now let's say if I've had fruit proportion to be 36, vegetable proportion from a data that I've taken, if I've averaged and calculated frequencies and proportions, and I want to graphically present that data, I would use a pie chart. And it gives me a percentage and proportion and color code them. Okay, so I could also use something called a bar chart. This is just one, for example, because it's just basic orientation today. I just thought I'd keep it very simple and plain and straightforward. Now here, I would use the pie command. So on in R, I would use a pie command to give me the proportions of my pie chart. I don't want to touch much on cell referencing because Excel is all about how you cleansed and data in Excel is relative or absolute cell referencing. I don't want to touch more on cell referencing because I don't want to confuse too much and use the technical. But if you see, there is a lot of relation that we have between what is existing in Excel with what we do in R. You can see the dollar sign here. We call that as cell referencing here. In R, we call that as extracting data from a data set. Because the data exits in the cell here, we're just using the dollar sign. In our programming, we are extracting data from a column. And we're going to have that. We're going to have a look at that in a little bit while. That is all I want to cover in Excel with basic sum average functions and stuff and cell referencing. I want to migrate from this to R and show some basic commands in R. Now, if you just see, I have data with 4 alphabets. I've said my object name X is equal to concatenate of A, B, C, D. Concatenate is when I want to create a vector, I'm going to define objects in a later class when we do the actual course. A vector is nothing but when I say X is equal to A, it just means to an object, I have assigned a value 1. That's it. When I want to assign multiple values to an object named X, which is I want to say X is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, I use my concatenate symbol, which is here. So, which is what I've done because I've assigned multiple values to one object. I use this thing. And I've asked what is the kind of values that X object has, and it says it is character objects. It is not numeric objects. Okay. I've again created values and I have got my data here. Vector of values have been converted into rows and columns here using my cbind command. I don't want to go into depth of explaining commands, but I just want to actually get a feel of, what R looks like and how we actually migrate from that cell into rows and columns here. Okay, and after I've just done that, I've used the dollar sign to extract few things in cell referencing. Here, I would use it displays the entire third row because I'm using indexing here. Okay, if I want from this data, it is extracting only the entire third row because that's what I've asked, row, and here is my column. Row, and I want to display the second column, not the row. So when I run this command, it will give me my entire second column. So on and so forth. R is more simplified. It's just about command and the sequence and the way we learn it, the structure. Again, addition, multiplication, subtraction, division, log, absolute values, square roots, any simple arithmetic function can be performed in R, which is what I've just showed a few of them. Apart from that, all I wanted to also talk about was the cell referencing of the command that we'd seen, which was $, from the Excel to R when we migrate. I've just imported a data set. I've just kept it ready for the purpose of session. I actually didn't go and import it. I did it well before, well in hand. I'm just trying to see what are my column headers of my imported data set, and it gives me all my column headers. So they're about 6 column headers. I want the average, which is my average value in my Excel, what we've seen. I call that my mean in when I'm using R programming. When I want the average of my column, which is age, sorry, okay, I get my mean of my column. That's my data set. For the age column, I'm asked it to give me the mean value, okay, which is what I've got here. Now, what I was actually trying to do was play around with the $, here, and I'm just going to explain that in a little while. Okay, now what I've actually done here is, previously I've attached the data set, so it's actually not doing. Okay, so what we do in R is we use this $, because when we don't attach a data set into R, every time we want to extract a particular column and work with it, yeah, I have to mention the data set, use my extract symbol, which is the $, and give the column name. Because R doesn't have the data set stored in its memory like it's saved here in the memory. So, but if I attach my data set, which is what I've done here, then I can just say, give me the mean. I don't have to mention the data set name like I did here. I don't have to use my $. I just say, give me the mean for the age column, because it's already saved to R's memory and it will do it for me. That is where the attach, the $, comes in here, which is a development from Excel. And when I don't want to use that data set, I can detach it. And when I want to use a particular data set, I can attach it. So I can detach the data set if I want it, and again, attach it back. But I have to import it before I attach it, so it's giving me an error. So, oh no, it's giving me an error because of the case sensitivity. R is case sensitive. Okay, so it's got that attached back again. That is all I wanted to do from a perspective of migrating from Excel into R with different commands that we perform from cell level into rows and columns in R. The kind of terminology starts to differ, which is what I wanted to highlight. And the way we do it changes because it is a cell, it is a column and row here that we talk about. Also about the kind of, then I want to go and touch upon my second this thing, which is to do with the job market. I do kind of see that there is a lot of scope for the skill in the market as of today. If you see the academic side, which is what provides the skill to place in the market, there is not much of colleges offering this kind of course, but then colleges are booming as of now, and they're starting up 2-year programs in analytics. I know because I operate in the Indian market, there is a 2-year program offered by Central University, and the first batch of students have actually just come out this June, and I think they're taking up the jobs in the market. But however, engineering has also started analytics in their fourth year elective, a compulsory this thing. So a lot of JNTU campuses are actually offering this. So is Osmania, from what I know. So that is the job market that I would think, holds a lot of job roles for people who are actually aspirants or actually pursuing this kind of course. The third is the second, apart from the skill, I think there would be other people who also can fill in jobs wherein a certification would help. And when we talk of certification, I would holistically say it's worthwhile to take in a certification with companies like Cloudera or Dell EMC. I myself certified with Dell EMC, and you get something like this. So which is like any client sitting anywhere in the world can actually just log into the certificate code, go into a Dell EMC website, log in with this credential, with this verification code, and can actually see your credentials with the kind of marks that you've secured. I have just done my associate level in data science. There is the next level, which is intermediary, and there is an expert level. Expert level certification has never come out in the market as of today, even by Cloudera, which is the top institute to pursue your this thing, because it holds about 80% of the market share from what I know, and Dell EMC comes after that. So aspirants can actually go and pursue their certification by going online to Dell EMC website and registering, or Cloudera website, whichever you want to do. So it's 3 levels, and I've not done my second level. So that's the second thing I wanted to touch upon. And the third,
Prema, this is just trying to
yeah.
mention off guard on this. That is amazing to know these certifications which are recognized in 3 levels. Congrats for getting off stage 1. And I think a lot of this growth comes through training and projects and how we keep growing our intellect on these subjects, correct? So it takes
Exactly.
time, I believe, and a lot of exposure
Of course it
to
does,
get to
yeah.
that expert level.
See, the question paper is fairly quite simple if we understand the basic concept.
Mm,
It is more around, the challenge of the certification is they would try to confuse you.
I
But
hear.
the
Yeah.
answer, and it is multiple choice.
Hmm.
It is all multiple choice.
Okay.
And they're dummy questions, but we don't really identify the dummy questions. If we
Mm,
can understand the concept well, and the jargon, because most of the
perfect.
jargon gets used in the certifications. So if we can understand that, it is actually very easy to crack it. But there is a certain amount of time that we dedicate to each of ourselves, a couple of hours on a daily basis as a commitment
For
to
preparation.
study, yes, to prepare.
Yeah.
I have
Wow.
a sample of question papers that I went through
Uh,
um, to prepare that I can actually share with the participants, which will encourage them to actually, crack through. But there is a
fantastic.
lot
More
of
like
preparation and
as
dedication that
part
people.
of the as part of the program, as we keep going,
Yes,
we would
yes,
love to
exactly.
see, how and guidance on how we can go to one level after
Yes.
the
So
other.
after every concept that I cover, I
Hmm.
give out a lot of sample questions that have actually come in the exam.
Okay. Nice.
And so that participants can acquaint themselves with trying to prepare themselves holistically for the market from a job perspective, which is interview, or from a certificate perspective, which is what they may endeavor to do. So I would
And
want to just end with these basic stuff. I don't want to cover anything more because it's just an orientation, which is what the shift from Excel to R is. I think I'll end with that, Karthik, but I'm ready to take on any questions as of now. Yeah.
perfect. I do have a few both technical and on the training program as well. Prema and audience, any one of you wish to speak or have it, please raise your hand or put it in the chat. So Prema, this is fantastic. I really love the way you showed, especially from an extremely simple Excel, which has functions all the way to pie charts. So the message is very simple. numbers are always there in front of us. How much do they mean? How much science can we make out of it? And
Yeah,
then come up with intellectual uh, guidance. Okay, this is what we should do next.
sure.
That's the approach for any small to large organizations. So this data is there, can be there in an Excel or a database or anywhere. So
Yeah,
R gives you much more access as a programming level. Is that correct?
yeah, that's right.
So
Yeah,
you're able to really break the data down. You're able to reattach them or analyze them. Maybe analysis comes even later, but you're able to really understand data at the first level
you're
in this
right.
R. And so the last stage where what about our presentations where so it also gives the same information as diagrams and so
Yes,
on, right? With some add-ons.
yeah.
And then it also does it get to a stage where um, we are capable to send triggers, alerts, create dashboards, um, something very dynamic where raw data is coming in like an engine all the way to the end that, okay, we're seeing it in production. This is what is happening, like
I think
live.
that is not what R has. That prototype
Uh-huh.
is not what R has got built. That's the only disadvantage that R is lacking at the moment.
I see.
Um, Yeah. So
So,
that gets migrated to either Python, and then I think a product is getting built. But at this
oh,
stage,
okay,
product building is not happening in R.
got that. And um, in fact, my next question was the same. Now we have data sciences with Python or data sciences with R. I've not heard too many of the others competing yet, but what's the take on this?
The take is R is pretty much picking in the market.
Mhm.
Nevertheless, we're not able to build an end-to-end product, but R is still sustaining in the market. The reason being, the data science role is catching up only because when you see the old age business intelligence to data analytics, the
Yes.
comparison of the architecture is that a data science person can interpret data, can story tell the data. That is what a data science profession is largely paid for, because he's crunching numbers and he's actually giving you a story tell about that in very simple layman's language, which is
Correct.
not what's in a BI that you would do. So in a data science, you can do the unknown, which is what in a business intelligence you could just do the known unknowns.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
particular with R, it is that when I say unknown, when I crunch height and weight, I get a new complex, a new very simplified method of understanding blood sugar levels called body mass index. So it is
Yes.
an unknown that I wouldn't have known. So in R, what happens is um, the interpretation of data is extremely very precise in comparison to Python, which is what R is actually having a leverage with, which is able to storytell
Mhm.
using. Now when I say storytell, let me just open a little bit of something for you. I know I'm going to go into complex programming, but I don't want to just keep you to that. I just want to give you throw some light into that for you. Okay.
Sure. Sure. And the one thing that I always get worried as a beginning is a lot of these jargons.
Yeah.
So, for example, yeah, in Excel itself, there's so many, but then as we keep going in understanding data itself, there's so much.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
Okay.
I know. Okay. Now, one of the challenges that we have with data, I'm not going into jargons. I'm not going to use multicollinear. I'm not going to touch anything at the moment. Now, I've just ran a few commands in R,
Okay.
and this is how my output comes. Okay. It is purely numeric. Now I've got to interpret and cleanse my data at this stage before I go into the next stage, because if I didn't cleanse my data, I'm going to have a lot of challenges with data. And this is
Visual.
one cleansing step for me, okay? Now, R is very strong when it comes to interpreting this kind of value for me at this stage. When I'm going to have this or not. Am I going to have this or not? I'm going to have this. I'm going to have this. I'm going to have, I don't want this. I want to delete this delete this variable totally from my analysis. I cannot keep it. I cannot afford to keep it. I will keep this. I will not keep this. I will keep this. I will not keep this.
Cleanse and select or make some sign.
So interpreting and writing why, as a data scientist, at every stage, why am I eliminating a variable from my data at that stage? I need to write in layman's language why I
because R is not artificially intelligent. It is just going to show you whatever you have. But
every stage, I need to be doing an analysis and kind of telling why have I eliminated the variable, which proved to be inadvertently affecting my data in a wrong way, and wherein it's not going to bring the right analysis and give me the right output to do my model building. And for that, I need to check this, which is just one command. This command has given me all of this. That's called a variance influence factor. How does it affect? So I need to, variance influence factor is a big jargon for a client sitting on the other end to actually take in. He wouldn't understand. I need to simplify that and explain it to him in his layman's language. So in that perspective, R has got a cutting leverage in comparison to Python, which is why it is sustaining itself in the market.
I see.
At every stage, not just being in the data cleansing stage. When I do my model building in R, even then, when I get the results, I have to interpret those results.
So R has been a lot of custom built for data sciences. Has R been created? What was the history of R? Maybe it was created with that in mind.
Yes, it was created just for analysis, right? Data analysis. Statistical analysis. That was what its specialized perspective was. So it stands, it's got the cutting edge over any other tool when it comes to interpreting data, tell your data.
And visualization?
Visualization, yes, it is too good.
Oh,
it's too good. It is very expressive. You can color code. Yeah. We've got different packages in R, like ggplot, which can color code, express a lot of it. Yes, it is good.
Okay, cool. That sounds fantastic. For me, Prema, it's a lot. I mean, I want to learn this as a beginner, as I learn with the team, because if I try and assume that, oh yes, I know this, or come with a preset, maybe I'll miss things. So to get to a stage, do you have any specific recommendation or a curriculum?
Yes, we do have the, I've got a structure of program that we go through. First, we need to start with understanding the variables that we have in data. Because the different tests that we use as statistical tests to cleanse your data initially.
Do you have the document handy by any chance?
So there is a certain way that we follow, a structure that we have.
Prima, 1 second. Yeah. Did you have the document? The same
yes,
document?
I have that. Yeah.
Maybe that will be easy just for quick reference.
I don't. I think it's in the email, Karthik. I don't have it right here, but I think it's in the email.
Okay, so again, let's drop it then. Let's look at it post.
Okay.
I will send it across. So the intent is to understand what all we'll get into it. Maybe tomorrow's session we'll start with that then.
Yes, we will start with the first session tomorrow, and we'll see a bit of variables understanding. I'm not going to
Okay.
throw in too much of jargon, but there is jargon, and we need to start getting used to that jargon because
Sure.
it's the jargon that's going to have you placed in the data scientist role, because that's what we have to simplify the jargon to a layman. That's what we're paid for. So we will be using jargon, and we will start getting used to the jargon because we are expected to use the jargon because the tests that we perform will have the jargon embedded in them.
Mm.
Okay, so we will start with the first session tomorrow, and we will go through few. I won't put too much of pressure, but yes, there will be a customization to a lot of jargon. Okay.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm not worried. I'm sure any of our students will not be worried about the jargons. We will accept it as and when. Maybe we'll start taking notes collectively into a single document.
No, I
That
will
way
give out
things
the
will progress.
PPTs, so
Oh,
the
cool.
everything
Yeah.
is there. So there's not much of notes to be made.
Okay.
Um, okay.
Sounds good. And I did have one more question for you before I end this. Any questions from the audience meanwhile? And if not, I think Prema, that'll be great. I'll see you back tomorrow, same time.
Oh
Let's
yes.
reconnect. And it was awesome. I just like the way things flew through this demo.
Okay. Thank you, Karthik. See you tomorrow.
Thank you, Prema. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Bye.
Bye now. Bye all.
Bye.